Hi, I'm at Nuria Bookstore again, my Habeeb Akande, and I'm pleased to be joined by Susan, who is a avid reader, and she's actually read my book. So we're gonna have a quick chat about hopefully what she found from my book, and then maybe like some of her experience in terms of reading books in Kenya and understanding the book market. So, thank you for making the time to speak to me. Lovely to meet you in person. So I'm quite interested. You said that you've read one of my books, or you've read.
I've read Taste of Honey, I've read Kunyaza, and I've read a book of Ruben of the Lion. And what I'm thinking was Taste of Honey, where you discussed about sexuality and poverty in Islam, considering in most of our African, let me put it from an African context, Islam, whereby we find many women in marriages, especially in the Islam setting of marriages. Myself, I'm a Muslim, where women are not really enjoying their sexual experiences in marriage. We tend to find sex in the marriages very like at all, something that is not for pleasure. So I want to understand first of all what motivated you to write this book, because I find this book is very enlightening, considering you have captured areas in regard to, can I just put it, love making, sex in terms of in the sanctity of marriage, and how it is something that actually from the days of old, including around Islamic teachings and also the hadiths and the traditional Arabic cultures in regard to sex. Something that actually favored women a lot, no matter what. Something that is really emphasized as women. They're enjoying the with really your ears and saying. So, one of the things I want to know, and say is what made you pursue writing this book, and what can you say? Because now Nuria readers, especially my Muslim sisters, are going to hear your comments concerning this book. And what encouraged was the reason why to purchase this book. Because I feel, honestly, sister, every Muslim woman, I want to encourage my Muslim sisters, and any other woman of other faith, in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, because Nuria is an East African Muslim. Please pursue this book and learn in regard to what religion and what the hadiths discuss about sex and Islam, and on areas especially of sex.
No, that was literally well said. Blushing. To be honest, I think for myself, I was born as a Muslim, but I didn't really take the religion very seriously until I went abroad and studied. But one of the things that I noticed when I went to Egypt is that, and from reading from the source text in Arabic, is that, like you mentioned, a lot of the classical scholars that spoke about Islam, spoke about the Quran and the Hadith, they emphasized women's right to self-respect. But my initial understanding was that growing up is that I thought that, like you mentioned, that sex was just for the man and it was a duty that women should give to their husbands. So, like I said, when I was actually coming across a number of these works, and I was speaking so many books and hadiths about ensuring that the wife is sexually satisfied, that the wife has the right to pleasure. This was very different to what I've heard in mosques and lectures. This might be interesting to maybe put into a form of a book, because I never found a book that really spoke that emphasized women's rights to pleasure. Most of the books I've found in English spoke about men's rights, that women are there to obey the husband and things like that. But a lot of the classical books in Arabic do the opposite. It was teaching men the wife has the right to sexual satisfaction. Even the wife should be not satisfied. You should understand that. This was very different. So I was thinking, okay, this might be a form of beneficial knowledge, something that hopefully people benefit from, and hopefully gaining reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to spread this beneficial knowledge, because for different reasons a number of people are uncomfortable speaking about I wouldn't say they're uncomfortable speaking about sex, they're uncomfortable speaking about women's satisfaction.
Yes.
Because they can talk about men's right to protest,
Yes,
they can talk about polygamy, they can talk about men's multiple,
multiple
wives, and things like that. So, but in terms of what Islam teaches, especially in the early period, it was the opposite. There was more honest speech from men to ensure that the wife was sexually satisfied from the time of the Prophet Muhammad. So that's why for me, I just thought I was interested in this, and I thought anyone who might be interested in this, I'll put it out there in the form of a book. It didn't take me over 10 years to kind of research, because I know that with a number of Muslims, they'll have a lot of reservations. Like, this person speaking. So that's why I wanted to provide a lot of references so you can see the sources I'm quoting both in Arabic and English. But ultimately, what I would encourage, especially for women, is to seek knowledge. That is one of the most important things, that our religion is one which promotes the truth for both the man and the woman alike, and to know what your rights are. But unfortunately, a number of our religious leaders are uncomfortable to talk about this topic, when that wasn't the case. The Prophet, peace upon him, and Muslims and early scholars. So rather than wait for a number of religious leaders to get comfortable speaking that women's rights together, I thought I'd try and take it upon myself to, well, I was fortunate enough to study, have access to these books, to try and summarize it and present it so people can learn for themselves, because I think, unfortunately, it's not the religion that's the issue, it's the interpretation of the religion. I think people kind of adopt a more of an androcentric or male-centric approach, whereas I think the religion is one which teaches mutual pleasure, and if anything, emphasizes women's rights associated with men. But that's not something that's often heard in religious sermons or talks and stuff like that. So, as long as people are benefiting from it, and maybe it's helping people whether they're married or unmarried or what have you, then I'm pleased that because that's some people benefit from it.
One of the things I wanted to find out from you is how has been the reception from especially Muslim scholars regarding this? What can you say? What has been the feedback around the world? Let's not concentrate only on Africa. Let's just say around the world, what has been the feedback and the criticism? I mean, just balance what
So I've received criticism, obviously feedback, positive feedback, but maybe because I'm Nigerian, I've got quite a thick skin, I just ignore it. And I was well aware that some people will be shocked, will be uncomfortable with what I'm putting out into the market. The way I look at it is that if it's beneficial, I don't have an issue with the criticism, because a lot of people that criticize aren't familiar with Islam actually says these other things. It says if hadith are speaking of something.
Yes, exactly.
So because of it's often, I would say, down to people's ignorance, I'm not really worried about the criticism. If it's some of the critics that I face or criticism I face in relation to maybe my style, my presentation, again, that's fine. If it's because everyone's style is different, where I might communicate, put my message out. But if the information I'm presenting is incorrect, then I'll remove this. A lot of people receive criticism in the sense of, you're quoting a hadith that's incorrect, or things like that. If it's maybe like I said, my style or presentation, again, each step away. Or I get oftentimes people who message me, you haven't got no shame, you've got no shame. And even
I've seen that actually on your
even with this is something that was happened even during the time of the points where if a woman were to ask about an intimate matter to the Prophet, peace upon him, there were some women who were taken aback by it and accused that woman of making shame, and also some men did, and the Prophet didn't rebuke the woman for asking such an intimate question. So my point is that people have different understandings of what this anyway, and when we talk about khayr, so or shine, so I'm not really concerned. I won't be able to please everyone. I'm not trying to please everyone, and those who want to benefit from it can. If you're uncomfortable with it, then don't read. And my work is targeted at adults. If you are, and I'm saying mature adults, if you're immature or you're approved and prudish or puritanical, then your work is not for you. But those who are comfortable through reading such information or learn, then hopefully they can benefit from it. So by saying that, a number of students have messaged me personally, privately, and have benefited from my work. They've appreciated it, but they can't be publicly. I get that a lot. So I'm not, and I'm well aware because, especially up in the UK, a large majority of the Muslim population of South Asian culturally, way more conservative than West African people like myself. So I'm well aware that if I'm speaking to primarily South Asian audience, it might be different from speaking to West African audience, to African American audience. So everyone has a different sensibility. So I know that there are some people who might be taken aback by what I say, because of like their cultural sensibilities, or they're just really uncomfortable with the topic, and that's fine. So it's not really, I'm not trying to preach to everyone. It's like those who want to benefit from what I said, I'll put it out there. And so try and encourage people to read, and obviously hopefully to inspire other, whether it's a sex educator, intimacy expert. Because I think one of the things that I would say is a gap in the Islamic erotic space is very well dominated.
It's true.
And there's not enough women.
Even when you find even in the conferences, women are not really given a platform to talk about. And also on the area of sex and let's just say marriage and things that are challenging in the marriage sphere in Islam. Very rarely are those topics addressed, and you find those topics are addressed. It's the men in that conference, but not the women who are invited. Women scholars who are invited, and if the women scholars are there, you find the session is limited specifically to the women. While I find that sometimes these conversations have to be entwined. They cannot be separated.
And again, I'll put that down to a misunderstanding of the religion. Because people be very comfortable taking conversations in a workplace, but as soon as you look at it, people feel like, oh, I can't listen to it, I can't. It's acceptable, and that's not something for the next generation. And that's why I think that as a man, we should be able to respect the qualification and expertise of women. And it's not that they can only speak about being mothers or menstruation. They're like the only topics that women are allowed to speak about, and then they have their own kind of room. Anything around intimacy, sexual satisfaction, climate, all of these topics, there's only men that seem to have the authority to speak, or when they're speaking, they're only citing nothing. So, and what I try to do with my book is to cite women experts, because at the end of the day, if we're speaking about women's satisfaction, why am I going to quote what men say? Because we have our own understanding, and our understanding is mal-orientated. So, I just think that as Muslims in particular, we need to grow up, be a bit more mature as well, both emotional and intellectually. Open the spaces and not have this, again, this puritanical, again, I'll put it down to, I don't want to say fake modesty, but it's just like we're not more modest or pious than the early generation and the Prophet and the companions, where they didn't have these reservations that many must have. So when I'm trying to understand where does this come from, a lot of it comes from our cultural understandings, and then we try and use religion to justify the
culture.
To justify the oppression or the subjugation of women or controlling women's sexuality. So that's why, again, I think religion can be a liberating force, but I think a lot of people, they associate religion with something which is quite repressive.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate thing. So it's like, if I were to speak about, and even just speak about the different books, when I released A Taste of Honey in 2015 and 16, it wasn't as well received by Muslims. So I said, okay, I'm not really going to target Muslims anymore.
Yes.
Okay, let me also speak about the topic of women's sexuality from a cultural perspective, so looking at Kunyaza, which is not from a religious perspective, it's more of a cultural perspective.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, I had a number of Muslims, both from Africa and not from Africa, who, because of saying Muslim, now they embrace the book. And then I'm wondering, is that you embrace the book because
it's culturally,
it doesn't mention Islam? Because some people, if you mention Islam and intimacy or sex, they don't want to hear about it. But if you just speak about the topic without speaking about religion, then they're more comfortable with it. Because some people have some mental blocks when they hear about religion, Allah and the Prophet, they find it very uncomfortable to speak about intimacy in the same sense as that makes sense. That's why I realized, okay, so it's people's perceptions or misperceptions and misunderstanding of the religion, because they look at the religion as being quite puritanical and restrictive, when I would argue it's not as restrictive as anything we kind of believe. So there is a lot of work to be done, but I think reading and education is definitely important. But then there are a number of people who don't like reading, and that's also what I've realised over the last couple of years. So it's like, how do I get the message across for people who aren't reading? And I'm noticing there's more women who are readers than men, so that's why I try to use social media to kind of enlighten without making it come across like I'm lecturing people. So I might use like memes or kind of like funny kind of like Oh, just comments. Because again, I think with men, we have our ego as well. It's very fragile. So we don't want to we don't like to think we know it all. So having like a formal talk, a lot of men won't resonate. So that's why it's trying to get the message across in an influential way.
Well, we've heard from Habeeb himself, and I would like to encourage, as I said, I'm not going to limit my recommendation to my Muslim sisters or family, but I'm going to encourage all of you to get this book, A Taste of Honey, and learn about what the scholars shared in regard to the Quran and sexuality. It is very enlightening because I know most couples are going through situations like what this condition called vaginism, where women are really like not able to enjoy their conjugal rights or sex with their partners. And you can get the book from here at Nuria Store. It's in stock. And from there, we now move to Kunyaza. And one of the things that I found very interesting in this book is where you talk about the pleasure of women of FGM. Because, we have certain tribes in Kenya where women go to FGM. And before I read your book, there's a friend of mine who has gone to FGM. And she told me that it's not so that they don't enjoy pleasure. It's a kind of misconception.
Right.
That you don't know whether. Okay, I really wonder, is it the kind of the way the cut was done, or is it because of the trauma of that cut that some are not able to enjoy? But her herself, she told me that she not had that friends. Or even I wondered, was it also because of maybe the man in her life, the husband, knew how to handle her? But I was very impressed by your take on FGM and how it's. If you put it like it's more, is it like a tool used to paint a picture that women who go through FGM just like count like they don't really enjoy sex. And to just let us just correct this so I don't misunderstand Habeeb. It's not that he's promoting FGM. He's not promoting it. He's not for it. But what he's trying to say is that we should not label all women who have undergone FGM or anyone who has gone through FGM as not enjoying, not being able to enjoy sex. And also in the Kunyaza, he discusses about Libya pulling. I say no pronunciation, the person where you interested. And it's mainly based on the cultures in Uganda and Rwanda. And actually, Habeeb, let me tell you, I was surprised to another expatriate lady viewed the Libya pulling as a form of FGM. And I tried to tell her it is not FGM. So I would really like you to expand a bit the time we have, just talk a bit about your book, and
So with
share your insights on what made it.
Lovely. I'm glad you asked that question. So, and speaking about like the FGM and the labor pulling, the reason why I think is, or one of the reasons why I wrote Kunyaza as well, is because I think that we spoke about Muslims' approach to sex and intimacy with Islam. Yes. But also the African approach as well, because oftentimes we don't hear about African thought leaders. It's often European or within the Islamic tradition, maybe Arab. And there are certain practices which are done in Africa that people outside of Africa do not understand. But when we're speaking about FGM, sometimes the West, global organizations, generally from the West, mischaracterize some of these practices because they don't understand it. So like you mentioned, I'm not for FGM, but also I think it's important that we don't say mistruths. You don't say things like, if a woman has undergone female genital cutting and mutilation, that she can't experience pleasure, that she can't have an orgasm. That's totally incorrect. Because there are many women who have been circumcised, who have been cut, who can experience fulfilling orgasms, flirting, and everything. Now, a lot of times in the West, because in the West there's so much emphasis placed on the clitoris, sometimes people think that if the external clitoris is not there, the woman can't experience pleasure when a woman's internal clitoris is still intact after female genital cutting, even if the whole external clitoris
Yes.
So a woman can experience the same type of pleasure that a woman has got external clitoris. It's important that we educate ourselves, even in the West, because, like I said, they often say things like, if a woman has experienced FGM, she can't experience pleasure. That's not true. Generally, obviously, a lot of women who have maybe experienced FGM or circumcision, they don't need to tell the world, no, I've been cut and I've an orgasm. But it's sometimes educated, so I'm saying is the others that, oh, in Africa, the women can't experience pleasure, they can't orgasm because of FGM. That's incorrect. And then in relation to the neighbour point, which I'm glad you touched on, this is then another example why we need more African educators and to people that understand the culture, because when the World Health Organization came across lady women, they said, oh, this is female feminism. There had to be African activists and feminists and experts that had to correct them and say, this is, why do you call this mutilation? If anything, it's modification. Then they reclassified it and they said this is female genital modification. So rather than calling it FGM, they called it FGMOC or FGMOD. So, but still, it's like, who is defining what is mutilation or not mutilation? Because when, for example, genital practice is happening in the West, whether it's in America, Europe, or Australia, they're not called FGM. It's called cosmetic surgery, whether it's labia, plastic, or what have you.
Yes.
That's just a double standard and a contradiction. Now, what a lot of time people say in the West, and this happened when I did a documentary for the BBC, they will say, oh, that's what's happening to girls. I said, no, but also, grown women as well undergo labia pulling. Is that still FGM? And I will say, no, it is FGM because it's not clean. It's not. Then it's like, okay, who is defining this? Because FGM is defined according to the World Health Organization and UNESCO as any form of alteration of cutting or removal of the external genitalia for non-medical reasons. But if you are doing labiaplasty, you're doing that generally for beautification, and that's culturally because that is defined. So I wanted to show that, especially for educators, for women themselves, when we're taking knowledge or reading things, we have to understand the person where they're coming from, because they've got own cultural biases. And that's why sometimes you need someone who's empathetic to your culture, and especially even the term. So I use FGM, but in certain cultures, they don't like using FGM, they prefer circumcision. But that makes them feel more humane. And they don't want to be known as someone who's mutilated. In other parts of the world, or some women, they don't mind the term. So again, it's just about being culturally sensitive, understanding, yes, I do want to eradicate the practice, but how you go about it, I think sometimes one needs to kind of respect and understand the cultural heritage in which eminent from. And that's why I think it's important that we have African own stories, because they're naturally probably going to be more culturally sensitive to the cultural tradition that we're speaking about, even if we're speaking about, like, I'm from West Africa and I'm writing about East Africa. It's having that level of respect and that cultural competency that I often don't find when I'm reading Western sources, that we kind of label Africa as if it's a monolith and we're not enlightened and we need the right European flavors to kind of educate us. So that's why, and that's why even coming here, I've been pleasantly surprised the number of Kenyan authors. And it's just great to see, because I've not experienced this in any other country, where there's so many authors coming and going, and Nuria is actually assisting them and giving them advice and just empowering our own voice, and they're telling our stories. So I think that's something which I definitely want people to learn and be empowered by or inspired by, and be motivated to write our own stories rather than waiting for validation from whether it's white Europeans or Arabs or Asians, because I think a number of us black people unfortunately do have this very
this complex where white, if it's not a white person or an Arab or someone from Asia, endorsing our work or accepting what we are doing or just giving our word there, you feel like you've not reached anywhere, But also, in regard to this Kunyaza, there's something I want to say, which you mentioned, and I'm really glad you mentioned, because you said that the way in the West is, they keep on saying that the pulling, that we keep on saying that it's a form of FGM. And yet, those same white women are coming here secretly in Uganda, maybe Kenya, I don't know, but I know in Uganda, they are flocking there in Rwanda, and some of them are actually undergoing with this. Some of them even are now even married to learn from certain cultures which encourage another point. Most of them are actually doing it in secret. So I think it's time Africa will embrace our way of our beauty in terms of on the area of sex. And I would like to also take this opportunity to encourage uh, people, or rather, can I say that our sex activists in the villages to come out and write books about Kunyaza and Gambia, like including the women also from Gambia.
Yes, Gambia.
Yeah, Gambia.
We've also got some in Nigeria.
Yes.
What about? It's interesting we're saying
They're
that.
really deep inside, but,
Yes.
but nobody is giving them that platform or giving them even the opportunity to document this sweet culture that we have. You know, these are deep secrets that we need to carry from generation
Yes,
to
I
generation,
agree.
so that our children will not frown and look at it like, "Oh, what are you doing to me?"
It's interesting you're saying that because yesterday, or 2 days ago, I spoke to a Ugandan based in Kenya, a holistic sexologist, Darwin. I don't know if you've
Yes, I've seen her on
amazing
one
work. And she
podcast.
speaks about the same tradition.
Yes.
Thinking about potentially writing a book and to document that
Yes.
the institution and tradition. I think one of the reasons why maybe it's lost for maybe the current generation is because the language barrier is the different languages. There's a now, so that's why you need someone to maybe intermediate or to
Yes,
translate.
exactly. Yes.
I definitely think that's hopefully Darwin that will be next time project.
Yes.
But I do think that's
How about
important.
people also go down?
I'll try and assist. Yeah.
West Africa.
Yeah.
Try and see
Yeah,
what you can.
yeah, I will try and assist
Yes.
because there are even like in the US we have there's a phenomenal lady called Angelica Lindsay. I lead the village auntie.
Yes, I
She
follow
also-
up Instagram.
and what she's doing as well is from what she learned from you could say the sex aunties in West Africa.
Yes.
Using that and teaching women
Yes.
in West, not only in North America, but also in Europe as well. So we do have voices from which I just think these voices need to be amplified and need to be documented because not everyone, not one person or two people can reach them. So that's why I think as Africans, and that's why I wanted to come here to see African thought leaders and production from knowledge rather than working on the West. So I'm pleased to come to Kenya.
You're
and
most welcome.
Thank you. That's been a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.
So out there in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and you'd like to get any of her big books, you can contact Nuria Store. I'm sure Habeeb will share with you the information or the link of how to order the books. And Nuria can send these books to you anywhere you are within East Africa. And I also believe outside East Africa, as long as you're within the African continent, is always a way Nuria Store will make sure that you get a copy of her books. Habeeb, I hope you'll come back again.
Yeah, but hopefully
This time we'll be able to host you in a wider, bigger platform.
that'll be lovely.
And
And thank you for taking your time to come. You taking time to be busy at work and taking the time to come and see me. So I do appreciate that. And obviously I've seen your support online for the last number of years. So thank you.
actually, I sent, I think it was in 2021, I sent
Wow.
Habeeb by DM,
I forgot.
Instagram, and I asked him if he could restock his books at Nuria. And one thing that I was very impressed, you're an international author, but you took time and responded and actually action on the request. And that to me is an honor. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Help us.